Hello and welcome to The Life You're Made For. I'm your host, Dr. Heather Pinney. Often our world feels reactive, confusing, and chaotic. On this show, we're going to slow down together. Take a breath, listen, and learn. We'll be joined in conversations with influential thinkers who will help us make new connections, understand our unique potential, check the beliefs we hold, and learn how to overcome unexpected challenges. I know that each and every one of us holds our own inner clarity, confidence, and courage, what I call 3C living and leading. So let's go after it together. I'm cheering you on. To dive deeper into the tools we discussed today, join the Grace Space Collective by subscribing to my emails. Go ahead and head on over to heatherpinney.com right now to get a free preview of my book, Grace Space, delivered to your inbox. Now let's get started. Hello, Tiffany. It's so good to have you here today.
Thanks, Heather. So great to be with you.
Oh, it is. We get to cross paths here and there, but I feel like I never get to see you enough and long enough, but it's always like we're just waving across the room or cheering each other on at events. So just always feel your love and support, and I hope you feel mine too, wherever it is you're doing and wherever you're stepping into.
Thank you. I do.
Well, let me tell you a little bit of who Tiffany is. Again, I keep telling my listeners I'm bringing on people that I have got to witness firsthand in their leadership. And today we want to talk about sustainable leadership. I know it's a value that both Tiffany and I have. We run different organizations, and so it is really important for us to keep asking that question. And here's what Tiffany is about. She's the founder and executive director of the Alliance, which is defending the cause of kids and families. And it's a network of over 100 agencies, nonprofits, and churches where they're all working together to serve vulnerable kids and families in Northern California. She's been also an advocate for at-risk youth. She and I both share that passion. Since 2010, organizing short-term mission trips to Haiti, launching and leading a church-based foster care adoption ministry, and supporting local agencies and nonprofits. Tiffany and her husband, Matt, have 3 children, 2 of whom were adopted from Haiti in 2017. I imagine it came from those trips.
Yes.
Yeah. And it was after a miraculous 6.5-year international adoption process. So again, someone who's great to speak on sustainability and even resiliency, which I'm anxious to pick her brain about today. So in addition to the nonprofit work, Tiffany has been in the healthcare field since 2007. She holds a degree in biology, a doctorate in physical therapy, and still treats patients in the private practice setting. So, all right, woman of so many trades and high achieving things. This is like, you're no slacker over there, my friend.
I like to stay active. That's for sure.
Yes, yes. And it was also fun knowing you when you had a beautiful surprise that came along in your later in your life. Do you want to start there?
Yes. Sure, absolutely. So our adopted kids had been home with us for about 5 years when we found out that we were having a biological. And our story is kind of unique. We didn't try for biologicals and then do adoption. Adoption was plan A. And our older 2 kids are amazing, but they're also on their pathway of resiliency and just trying to figure out life in America and that adulting process, which I think is very elusive for this generation.
Yes.
But yeah, we have a toddler in the mix now. He's almost 3 years old.
Yeah. Family number 2.
That's right.
I
But the
love it.
olders really love their younger brother, and it's really fun to see them engaging with him. And some of the experiences of them watching us parent a toddler is also healing their past trauma. So it's a beautiful gift.
What a gift. What a gift. Yeah, just stuff that twists and turns that life kind of hands us that we don't see coming, but then
Yes.
you realize, okay, after I'm over the shock of this, what a gift this has been in so many diverse ways that we could never even have planned. It wasn't on our vision board.
That's right. Exactly.
So let's jump in there. You know, you and I have had, we both have similar thinking of how we just love starting things. When we see a need, it's hard for us to look away. With my work as at-risk children in East LA, and then my work with the humanity and moving them forward in the 3C living and leading and creating grace space and the leadership circles that we live and lead in. These are all things that you and I have intersected with. And I think at the core level of our passion, it's to serve humanity, but serve a need that we see.
Right.
So here you are running a successful business in your physical therapy business, and you see this need, and it's like, this is no small task you took on. Tell us a little bit about what happened there and how you made that shift and kind of living with a foot in both worlds.
Absolutely. Well, I absolutely love my career in healthcare, and that's why I'm still treating patients. But I was recognizing how many kids in our local area were at risk or had experienced childhood trauma, were living in the foster care system, were coming out of homelessness. There's just a lot of factors that kids in this culture are facing
Mm,
in terms of bullying in schools and challenging circumstances. And so I had a little bit of that vision of it on the first hand of being an adoptive mom, but also on looking at the stratizations serving different populations, but within the same area here in the greater Sacramento region, and wanting to see a little bit more collaboration between different agencies, nonprofits, churches. Again, there's fantastic things, but I feel like it's the thousand-piece puzzle that if you have all the pieces disconnected from each other, you cannot be as effective, and there's going to be kids falling through cracks in the system of care. And so if those puzzle pieces, if those organizations are actually working collaboratively and aware of what each other are doing and are willing to co-labor towards certain goals, maybe share resources, ideas, volunteers, even funding at times, if organizations are willing to do that, then we're really raising the bar for all of the children and families in our entire region. And so I love
mm,
to be a strategic planner. I think
mm,
that's what I was utilizing a lot in my healthcare practice because the body is in interconnected systems.
mm,
And so when somebody presents to me in a physical therapy realm with pain in one body part, I'm asking a lot of questions about their health history and I'm
mhm,
trying to piece it all together. So I got to do that
mm,
10 years ago as we were building the alliance around vulnerable kids and wanting everyone to have a seat at the table.
mm. I love that. I love that. And how is that? Let's just talk a little bit about your work life harmony. I don't call it balance because I think it's a myth. We never have the
Agreed.
perfect balance, right? But I think it's a constant state of looking at that harmony. So as you look at your personal life with a sweet young toddler, your sweet older adult children, you're launching your husband, and
Mhm.
I always joke that we want to stay married too and that we really
Right.
love, right? And so these personal commitments, your professional commitments of really honoring a significant force in our area to go after these at-risk children and then to care for the bodies. Some of us
Right.
aging people, I'm like, how are you holding all that?
Oh, it is a juggle for sure.
Mm-hmm.
This year in particular will be 10 years with the Alliance and 20 years of marriage. So we were just talking,
Mm-hmm.
Matt and I, about this is a milestone year.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like the finding the rhythms, I love structure. So I'm a
Mm-hmm.
type A firstborn, just to kind of give you a window
Yeah.
into the way my brain and my life works. But I do find that having rhythms of balance, finding those spaces where I'm at home and I'm not checking my phone, I'm not checking my email, I'm not responding to work tasks on nights and
Mm-hmm.
weekends most of the time allows me to be fully present with the people I'm with at home. Being fully intentional about scheduling out my work week in terms of what times I'm working on what projects and what tasks, how many meetings I'm willing to set in a given week, how many things I can dream about, and even scheduling time to dream. I
Mm-hmm.
have a chair in my office that I call it my think it over chair, but like in the best of senses. It's like,
Yes.
it's not the punishment for like the
Yeah.
teenager that needs to think it over or the
Yeah.
toddler that needs to. It's like if I can get 5 minutes at the beginning
Mm-hmm.
of my day in that chair, or just
Mm-hmm.
even in that going for a walk or not sitting at my computer,
Mm-hmm.
to have those bigger, higher level thoughts of what does this day hold? What
Mm-hmm.
things are my priorities this week? That really helps me to structure my time around things. And it's interesting
Mm,
because in the healthcare realm, there's a little bit more structure around. I'm in a healthcare field where I'm not on call. So there
mm,
was really good boundaries around when I'm at work, I'm fully at work. And when I'm not at work, I don't bring it home with me. The
mm,
nonprofit sector is entirely different. And I know your sector, like you could bring work home with it. It
mhm,
can follow you wherever you
mhm.
go. And so I've
Yeah.
had to learn how to set really a lot more parameters around my life where even if work related tasks are hitting my inbox or my phone,
Mhm,
at times where I'm not scheduled to be working, I've learned to shift them, not to ignorance. I don't ignore
mhm,
them, but I shift them onto a time schedule when I'm back at work.
mhm. Oh, well said. Yeah. And I guess I want to ask you this. What are some flags that you're noticing when some of that harmonious goal that we're trying to go for is starting to get a little out of balance?
Oh, I just tend to be short. I think I'm sure the vulnerability is I'm just my temper is shorter, my patience level is shorter, my ability to respond compassionately to
Yeah.
the person in front of me, whoever they are.
Yeah.
If I sense that I am overworked or I'm running ten things in the back of my mind, I constantly refer to my brain and my workload kind of like a computer. And if I have too many
Mm,
browsers open, it slows everything else down. So if I've
mm.
lost my creativity, if I've lost some of my three C's, as you talk about, I know
Yes.
that I've kind of overloaded my circuitry, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've got to close some files. And so for me,
Mm,
closing files looks like doing some of those easy things just so I can check them off of my list.
mm-hmm.
It might mean scheduling that thing for later in the week or maybe delegating it to someone else. But if I can offload or shift or set time aside for something else, then it no
Mm-hmm.
longer is taking up my mental capacity and it's like closing out a file.
I love that. I love that. I think one of the things that I'm facing in this more of my second half of life, to be honest, when I first started my coaching company over 15 years ago now, I was like the person in the front row with the hand up, like, pick me, pick me. I want the opportunity
I can
experience,
see you doing
Yeah.
that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You can. And I can see you doing that too. But, there comes a time when you need to kind of, what I joke, like, put your hand down, Heather, is what I have to tell
Mhm.
myself. Like, we're done in that stage. And so there's a
Yes.
new stage in my life. And I call it the shadow side of success, when we've worked hard and we've had our hand up and we've said yes to a lot of opportunities and we learned what we wanted to say no to. I'm now in a stage in my life where there are so many great opportunities I want to say yes to. And that's been more of a challenge. It's easy to say no to the ones that's not a fit for us, or just we know it'll drain us. It's
Right.
very hard to say no, for me to say no to the opportunities that are really great and we want to say yes to it. I guess I want to ask you, how are you creating filters around that, where you want to say yes, but you know something's pulling at you? What are you noticing when you know that it's, I got to reassess that. I got to go to my thinking chair.
Yes. I don't think I hit my professional capacity to find out what my ceiling was until
Mm,
about 3 years ago.
mm,
And in these last 3 years, and part of that was having a toddler 3 years ago, because that
mm-hmm,
added the complexities of
mm-hmm,
being up early and doing all of the things that were there was more of me that was needed at home.
mm-hmm,
But professionally, I think that now that I've recognized and hit that place where if I exceed my capacity, I'm not good in any other setting.
mm-hmm,
It's not like I can add one more thing and all of the plates keep spinning. If
mm-hmm,
I add one more thing, some of the things that feel natural and feel easy right now will no longer feel easy because I've gotten out of alignment. And
mm-hmm,
so for me, like you said, there's some things that hit my inbox that I would love to do,
mm-hmm,
speaking engagements or opportunities or strategic planning meetings that I'm like, oh yeah, that's in my wheelhouse. I would get to use my strengths here.
mm-hmm,
But if I say yes to that, will something else that I'm doing that is highly important to our organization's mission or
mm-hmm,
to me personally, will it suffer? And
well
so
said.
I have to say no, and it is very
Mm-hmm,
hard to say those no's. I've got
mm-hmm,
I've got one I've got to make later today where it's a wonderful opportunity and it's a closed door for me because I don't
mm.
have any extra time to give to it.
Yes. Well, thank you for saying yes to me.
Of course.
I appreciate that I made the cut. And I think as I'm thinking on that question too, it's hitting me where I have to start with my personal life, because my tendency is my professional life can grow, 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 and it starts leaking over. And so after 32 years of marriage, this is no surprise to my husband and I. And so we just sat down and did a reassessment of where are my energies going. And I was saying yes to so many things that I could feel that pull again. Why am I not wanting to look at this? I was feeling that pull of like wanting to push through for 2026 instead of really slowing down and say, wait a minute, there's something pulling at you. There's a fatigue that's starting to feel on you as you look at the year forward. And it was such a powerful exercise as we sat down. I kind of went through, what is it that I want to give my attention to in my personal life? And what is that going to require of me? When I
Yes.
focused on that, I have a 21-year-old and a 23-year-old who's got these huge thriving lives. I don't want to miss it. And
Right.
just because they're out of the home and launched, I want to have the space and the energy to either take their phone calls whenever they're calling me, to getting on the plane and flying to any of their events, or just things they want me a part of in their world. And it requires creating space. And then my husband and I did the total cliche thing, Tiffany. We got a camper van
You
empty
did?
nest. Yes. We made a vow to ourselves we would take it out at least once a month. And I am telling you, we're going on about month 3 where we haven't taken it out. So we're getting after ourselves because it's sitting in our driveway. We don't even put it in storage, just so it makes us get out in nature. Both of us travel so much that we got so tired of hotels and everything that we thought, let's slow this down. So we sold our plane and got the camper van so we could get back into just nature and just kind of connecting a little bit. But that requires time and space. I can't say yes to all these trips or these weekend things. I have to schedule and want to schedule space and energy. And it's funny how, I don't know if you're this way, but it's easy for me to keep like whittling away at the personal space until pretty soon, it should have like whatever, 25% of my energy. And it's just getting down to like 2%. And I
Yes.
think I have to stop and reassess things. And it has to start with my personal life.
I would fully agree that it's a realignment. And I feel like that's one of my words for this year is just realigning with the things that are my core values, my organization's core values, the ways that I could pour into other people. But yes, we need those opportunities to reassess because it's easy to borrow little chunks of time here and there.
Yeah.
But then if we do that over and over again because it's become natural, then we do need to be in that realignment. And that's the beauty of a beginning of anything, the beginning of a year, the beginning of a new project. If you're a team, if you have a staff and you're hiring a new person, you get to envision what that person can take off your plate and how you can delegate to them and use their skill sets. But I feel like we set these milestones as leaders. And when we do, we have an opportunity to pause and reflect and then be introspective for a minute and just where am I at right now? Am I loving this moment in my life? And if I'm not, why? And what do I wish I could do more of? And how do I get there? I think all of us as leaders have a lot of abilities and capabilities that allow us to move things forward. We can communicate to other people visions or ideas. We can inspire others, but we often don't use our leadership abilities for our internal selves. But we can lead ourselves into places where I'd like to be more of, or I'd like to do more of, or I'd like to go in this direction. And then we set up the strategic plan, just like we would for any program or department or resource that we offer.
Well said. Yeah. And the work that I do, that's where I call it the 3 C's. It's, you want clarity first. So what are you valuing? What really clarity on what amount of energy and time do you actually have? Not that you want to have, not that you've been telling yourself or lying to yourself, but what do you actually have? Your 24 hours of a day.
Yes.
And then once you get that clarity, you got to move into that confidence space where it's really checking our beliefs. I noticed that I just didn't want to, there's 2 things. I didn't want to disappoint. And I didn't want to say no to something that I needed to get off my plate recently. And I was living in a little bit of the angst of it because I thought my false belief of I have to figure out this by myself. I wasn't able to get to the clarity that I needed. And so that's when I brought in my husband and I brought him in a teammate who just helped me move into that space of more clarity. And I guess I want to go there. I think who we choose to surround ourselves with can really support our clarity and confidence and unfortunately sabotage it. I guess I want to talk to you. What kind of community do you have in your life? And what does that look like that supports your clarity and your confidence before you move into the courage space, which is about action, which we love to do, but slowing down because leadership comes from within.
Well, I'll talk a little bit professionally and personally. On the professional side, I have an incredible team of people that work here at the Alliance, and the interview process is certainly about skill sets and, can they do the job that they're interviewing for, but also the character in each person. And I think a lot of leaders are also, a lot of us are hiring even more for character, sometimes than competency. And so I think that there's the ability we check in weekly. We have weekly staff meetings, and then we're doing a lot of interconnected work throughout the week. So I feel like surrounding myself with people who are high caliber, but also high character, allows us, like I have staff that are willing to come knock on my door and give me feedback, even if it's constructive feedback. I have people who are willing to say, how are you doing with again, it's not a work-life balance because it's not like, we're going to all reach this harmonious place.
Yeah.
But it is just navigating the world where my staff cares about who I am as a person too. And I have the same for them. I think that on the personal side of things, my husband and I definitely have rhythms of connecting in the evenings,
Mm,
usually after the kids have gone to bed. Having a toddler is interesting because you're up early, but then having teenagers, they like to connect later in the day,
yeah,
like
yeah.
after dinner.
Oh, yeah.
So once all of that investment of parenting time is done, we do like to cycle and just talk to each other and
Mm,
connect. But I also have an incredible best friend, so I have that
mm,
space that we're using technology. We're in the same town, so we see each other in person once a week. But my schedule is definitely full. I'm usually working 5, if not 6 days a week. But I
mm-hmm,
have my drive times, my commute to work.
mm-hmm,
There's an app called Marco Polo. And so it's
mm-hmm,
still allowing all of the
mm,
connection with facial expressions and tone of voice because it's video messaging. So
mm-hmm.
I'm on that every single day
Really?
with my closest friend, and
Mm-hmm,
that's allowing us to process our lives and our feelings and personal and
mm,
professional things just in that space. So I
mm-hmm,
found that while counseling is fantastic and coaching is fantastic, those require larger chunks of time that are more dedicated. So
mm-hmm.
I 100% believe in both of those, but I love that daily check-in that I also get that's on that personal level.
I love that. I love that. And I think you're onto something. As busy working moms, having relationships that don't require a daily phone call because, and this sounds bad, but I think you're gonna know what I'm saying.
Oh, I do.
We only have time for a one-sided quickie kind of thing. And then
Yeah.
we got to make sure that we hear, and then we want to hear theirs, but we have 1 or 2 minutes. And I've done that with, I've got two girlfriends that I've done this with for probably 30 years. And we've lived all over the world. I remember she was for a while living in Africa. Another one was living in Minnesota. We're still living all over. And we've been able to keep that up because we gave ourselves the permission to have more of a one-sided. So we'll get these random texts from one another, and then we barely have the time to sit and give the conversation. But there's this freedom that this is where we're at in life, and particularly when we had kids. Oh my goodness, we're now
Yes.
getting into the launching stage where I did something so funny to myself. I literally was sitting there. My husband's traveling. My kids are gone. It was a Sunday night. It was last night, and I was sitting there going, I think I'm just going to pick up the phone and call some people. And
There you
I
go.
did. And they picked up, Tiffany.
That's a miracle.
Isn't it?
That
Yeah.
you're available, they're available. They're like,
Yeah.
wow, I haven't seen Heather's number come across in a little
Yeah.
while.
And one of them
That's
I talked
amazing.
with over an hour, but it just reminded me of like, I grew up in the 70s and the 80s where I'm like, that's what we did to connect. And I
Yes.
thought, I'm going to return to some of that because my space is starting to open up more on that personal,
Oh,
social level.
good.
I could feel the pull to go work, but I
Right.
realized, no, that is not going to refuel me. That's going to start draining me. And I want to make sure I'm giving care to my personal life. And I was like, to have the energy to do that. And I haven't been able to do that for years. It was
Hmm.
super a gift to myself, and it was a gift to my dear friends who I was like, I'm just calling to catch up. And we got laughing because we're like, yeah, we're either doing the one-sided text or they quick, like, hey, say this prayer for me. I'm getting ready to go do this, or I'm looking at this, and or my parents are suffering, whatever it is that we're dealing with. There's these safe spaces that we're able to jump into. And I think what's hit me is we don't need as many as we think we do.
Right.
It's just, you said something about your best friend. It's like, even if it's just one person, I have a client who she always says to me, Heather, I just need one person in my corner, one person.
Yep.
And once I
Exactly.
have that one person, I can move the world. I can do whatever I need to do. And I think
Yeah.
how we choose that community and that tight space around our heart is so important for us as we look at restoring ourselves and keeping that sustainability.
Absolutely. Like, and we know ourselves when in that clarity of knowing who you
Mm-hmm.
are. I know I'm a verbal processor and I
Mm-hmm.
don't need to process my decisions with everybody. I don't need to process every little decision with someone. But if I have a
Mm-hmm.
bigger decision to make, I want to sound it out. I want to say it out loud. I want to have someone else speak into it. But sometimes me just processing, I've
Mm-hmm.
solved my own problems just by recording them on Marco Polo to someone else because there is a compassionate and empathetic witness on the other end of that. But I
Love
also
that.
solved my own issue because I had a space to say it out loud. There's a
Yeah.
time for those synchronous
Yeah.
connections with people where
Mm-hmm.
I'm meeting at the same place at the same time, either on the phone or
Mm-hmm.
face to face, which I prefer. But having an asynchronous ability to connect deeply and to be able to record something and they're going to watch it later and they're going to
Mm-hmm.
record something that I'm going to watch when I can, it
Mm-hmm.
allows, I feel like technology is a pull in a lot of different directions, and it's definitely a tool that we have to use to our advantage, but we have to use it so wisely.
Yes. If you could narrow it down, you've got experiences both in the PT world and in the
Mhm.
nonprofit world, and both of them require very different skill sets. And there's probably some overlap as well, as in anything. But I'm just curious, what are you learning about yourself of where you feel most alive and probably most energized?
I think I love to look at complicated things and make them simple. And so,
Mm,
like I mentioned before, I love asking questions. I love that verbal rapport with somebody, and then the ability to dig into a challenge or a problem, get pieces of information that maybe
mm-hmm,
someone hasn't looked at or hasn't looked at in that exact way,
mm,
and then formulate a strategy or a treatment plan or a solution to
mm,
something very complex. I was a puzzler for years. Like I love to put those puzzles together. And so I'm still doing that in different capacities, whether in the nonprofit space or in the healthcare space. I tend to be in my sweet spot when I'm getting to use that cerebral processing,
mm,
that's just the way that I'm making sense of my world all the time, grabbing as much information as I possibly can and then synthesizing it into something else. So when
mm,
I'm tapped to sit in on a strategic planning session or a
mm-hmm,
brainstorm session, those tend to be areas that energize me as a leader.
mm,
When I'm piecing together complicated information, that tends to really energize me. Your audience is probably familiar with Working Genius
mm-hmm,
and those six geniuses. And so
mm-hmm,
I really like the discernment piece.
mm-hmm,
I actually really like the tenacity piece as well. So if you give me
mm-hmm,
a checklist and I'm getting to, go through all of those things that are in my lane,
mm-hmm.
I think the thing that drains me the most is when I'm doing a task that's better fit for someone else.
Oh, well said.
When I'm working outside of my
Yeah.
geniuses, when I'm working outside of my areas of strengths. And so
Mm-hmm,
finding my lane and knowing the tasks that I really like and then filling my day up with that tends to
mm.
be where I feel the most energized and the most accomplished at the end of a given workday.
I love that. I love that because I'm up there at the DI. So I am not. My frustration is the T. And for those of you that aren't familiar with Working Genius, really what I'm saying is I really love inventing and wondering about things and discerning about things. But when it gets down to actual task list, you'll see me start to kind of glaze over. And and it's not that we're not capable of doing all of these areas, but it's just really noticing your energy. And when I began to notice my energy was getting very sabotaged and used up, that's when I knew I needed to hire an executive assistant who I just literally said, "Hey, do you like doing tasks?" I'm telling you, that's her energy level to the point where I just love handing things off to her. And we partner so well together. And sometimes the tendency in my younger career was I wanted to partner with people that were like me because we were having a party. We were
Yeah.
dreaming about things. We were inventing things. We were wondering things. Nobody was getting it done.
You do need to work through that full work progression and have
Yes.
strengths that you don't carry. And it's wonderful to work with people
Yes.
who are different than you or differently gifted.
Right, right. And so having that clarity on what it is that drains you and what energizes you is not only a gift, but the more that we grow and cultivate that clarity, we will have a shortcut
Yes.
to really a healthy, more balanced life, and also really how to hand things off to a team where, my executive assistant, she's been with me over 2 years now. She loves the tenacity, and I love that she loves it. She loves doing all the tasks. But if I ask her to start dreaming and visioning with her, I just watch her start glazing over. She's like, "That's kind of your job.
Yeah.
Just give me your vision and tell me what the." And I just love that conversation and that ease that we have with each other, and really the permission to not be energized by someone else's gift
Right.
mix, and being able to really recognize what your own is.
Exactly.
Love it. Okay, so I want to ask you this. How do you build recovery back into everything? You're giving, giving, giving. You work in two professions, not one, but two that require a tremendous amount of giving to humanity. How do you build recovery in?
I think there's the micro and the macro.
Mm,
In the micro, I need to have those pockets of unloading,
mm-hmm,
especially in transition.
mm-hmm,
Sometimes it's me just leaving the office at lunchtime so that
mm,
it's not a continuous work through lunch type of
mm-hmm,
mode. And I'm planning out a couple errands that are just personal and life giving for me to run at
mm-hmm,
lunch.
mm,
Other times it's pausing in my car, even driving around. This is one of my secrets that I I don't share with everybody, but I'll share with your audience, is
Yeah.
that I'll drive 3 or 4 laps around my neighborhood before I pull into my garage because I'm not quite ready to step in. Like, it's almost like I needed to unpack or take some deep breaths or finish my Marco Polo conversation. Like, there's something I still need to order in order to show up really well for my family the second I walk in the door. Because as parents, we don't always know what we're walking in as a married person. You don't always know how your spouse is going to respond. And so being able to be fresh for the next thing that I'm doing, I have those little micro pockets. On a more macro scale, I do feel like there's at least one day a week I can't touch work. It's that tithe of time or that Sabbath of just, I'm not going to do emails today. I'm not going to check things. I don't do notifications on my phone. This is more of like a micro habit. So nothing notifies me. Other than text messages, and I rarely give out my personal cell phone number. So people that want to reach me can reach me at the office number, and then I'm going to check that when I get back to the office, and we have an executive assistant that answers the phone anyways. But finding those spaces, I tend to also not allow my email inbox to be dictating my day, because I have absolutely no control over how many emails are going to be in there or the content of which other people are needing me to invest in. And so wanting to allow the beginning of my day, the end of my day to be really important, and then wanting there to be those chances to disconnect. I tend to like to cast vision over a whole year. I tend to like to set up goals for certain projects with deadlines so that you're moving from this project to the next project and trying not to have them overlap too much, because there's finite limits to our human condition that if we don't recognize those, burnout is very quick to set in.
I love that you brought that up. So I have to jump in here because it's the work that I do in the coaching. It's what I call the Thrive Plan. And let me just affirm, you're doing this wonderfully, splendidly, if I might add. But it's the daily of just recognizing what you need daily. And that is always ongoing. And whether it's an hour here or silencing your phone, or, I've got a bunch of different tricks that I do daily, even just how I start my day. It's a really critical space for how I start my day. That's my daily practices. Then there's the weekly, and that's stepping aside, taking rest. I too honor a Sabbath day where it's like no rest. I mean, no work, nothing. And really, I even go further. I'm like, if I don't feel like I want to do this or happy about it, I just say no. Like, how many things are we having to do throughout the week,
Right.
And then it's the monthly, and that's taken at least a full day, sometimes an overnighter, to just get that clarity you need. And I had to do this recently when I was re-looking at just all the beautiful growth that was happening in my company, but I had to reassess what I needed to say no to, what I needed to back away from, and what else I wanted to really grow and give my attentions to. And then they have the annual. And the annual is what I call my me retreat. And that's a 2 or 3 day, and it's just you.
Good.
And it's nothing you are taking on your retreat unless it's something that is just going to give you life. And so I think learning how to hold this cadence of the daily, the weekly, the monthly, and the annual. And this is for all my overachievers. You need to know, Tiffany, we have a huge audience of overachievers and high potential people, and these just energized bunnies that are just running around our world and changing it. And I'm loving working with them.
But and we see you.
And we are you.
We are you.
We are you. And we applaud you. And everything I'm saying is 3 fingers pointing back. I always joke, it takes one to know one.
Yes.
But if I don't really strategically, and I think you used that word earlier, getting strategic, if you don't get strategic about your replenishment time,
right,
it's amazing how it can get stolen from you.
Yes. Nobody's going to give it to you. Nobody's going, I mean, it's interesting. You look at the ways as a leader or as a parent or as a company owner, you're pouring into all of these things. You do see results, you do see wins, but almost everything requires more of you than you're getting back from it a lot of times. And so that you have to plan in those margins, like you said, daily, weekly, monthly, and annually in order to recharge.
Yeah. Especially if you're solving puzzles all the time. That, to me, I would be like, yes, there's a high on that until you're like, oh my gosh, my brain is starting to get on overload. So how you replenish even just your brain, your mind, body, heart, spirit. And I love that it's hitting me, that you're in the healthcare field, because in the work that I do, it's holistic, mind, body, heart, spirit. And I'm constantly talking about that. But it's wild to me to watch these high-powered individuals and leaders that are working in all these amazing spaces, and the first to go is their body. They're pushing themselves to stay at their desk way over long, like hours and hours. They're focused. They're not eating well. They're not exercising. They are staying really high on caffeine and they just keep needing more and
Yes,
more and more. And so I do have a hard and it's probably because I'm in middle age now. Because you can push yourself a little bit more in your 20s and 30s, but in
you
your 50s,
can.
you can't get away as much as you used to. And so it's mandating that I care for my body in new ways, but it's really a passion that I have. And I love that you have both of those expertise fields to say, having that health piece is critical to my well-being.
Absolutely. Yeah. My specialty in undergrad was neurobiology, physiology, and behavior. And so, even though I'm in the nonprofit sector where the bulk of my career now, we're working in the childhood trauma space.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing how much that we as adults need to know ourselves and be able to regulate our own body because
Mm-hmm.
how we show up for kids who have a trauma history, a lot of the success depends on my own ability to regulate because I'm
Mm-hmm.
coming in and setting an atmosphere and co-regulating a child if I want to promote healing.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm not regulated, if I'm having a hard day, it's going to
Mm-hmm.
seep through. If I'm not physiologically caring for my body
Mm-hmm.
and my mental health, because we are as you said,
Mm-hmm.
we're a cohesive individual,
Mm-hmm.
and that mind-body connection is huge for every interaction we're going
Mm-hmm.
to do. If it comes from a staff meeting, or
Mm-hmm.
we're engaging with a friend or a spouse, or we're interfacing with people
Mm-hmm.
who are out in the community and have their own stories, we
Mm-hmm.
really do need to regulate ourselves first. I
Well
think the
said.
phrase I love is that the only person you can control is yourself on a good day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it requires us to know ourselves and also
Mm-hmm.
set ourselves up to be able to walk into any circumstances. Leaders, we have to deal with hard
Mm-hmm.
things.
Mm-hmm.
We have unexpected things happen. You have transitions on teams. You have
Mm-hmm.
changes in funding or changes in programs or changes in the way your company is structured. And as leaders, we have to have a high tolerance for change and a high
Mm-hmm.
ability to be resilient. And
Mm-hmm.
some of that pertains to how well we're caring for our mental state, how well we're caring for our physical bodies, and then where we're going to recharge.
Well said. Well said. Yeah, I didn't even realize, and again, this is all my fingers pointing back, but the more my world was growing, my body was taking the brunt of it.
Yes.
And my false belief was, I got this. I did not
Mhm.
have this, Tiffany.
Yes.
And my body was starting to show. And so in my case, I hired a trainer probably about a year ago, and she didn't let me get away with anything.
Good.
But she has that mind body connection that I really value. It's not just about, forcing my body to be in a certain shape. It's really saying what's going on mentally. How do we have your body support that? And to your point, really, how are we honoring our central nervous system in the
Mhm.
spaces that we live and lead in? We have to bring our best self. And I'm with you. I can't tell you how many times I love that you actually circle the neighborhood. I just park probably a couple blocks away and pull off to the side until I can finish my conversation and then reset, because I don't want to take that into my personal space and I don't want to bring that to my conversation with my husband or if my kids are home or anything social that I'm doing.
Yes.
I want to put a boundary there, and I'll just pull off and for however long as it takes. And I even pulled in the driveway the other night, had a late call, and I thought, I'm not going in the house. I'm going to
Right.
sit in this driveway and finish this conversation so that I can close the chapter on that and then come
Mhm.
in, give the energy and the attention that I want in my own personal space. So
Yes. I'm glad that Darren doesn't pop out into the garage. I used to pull into the garage, but then with teenagers or
oh
toddlers, they're
yeah,
like opening the door like mom's home.
yeah,
I'm still on a call or I'm
they
still
used to.
processing my life. Yeah, I
Yeah.
have to, I'm really not there.
They used to. Mine are all launched. So now I can sit. And even if Darren does pop out, he sees me, he nods. He's like, oh, she's finishing up.
Yep.
And he does the same thing. I'll pop out and I'll
Right.
see him in the car and I'm like, oh, he's finishing up. So,
Exactly.
well, it's been so awesome talking to you. I always love our conversations.
Yes,
Tiffany,
me too.
what encouragement do you want to leave our listeners?
I think that leading is such a beautiful gift that each one of us, whether you're leading in your personal life or you're leading in a professional capacity, that when we bring the best version of ourselves, we get to see change happen. We get to see the magic, whatever your profession, whatever your field, whatever you're doing in our world, like you matter and how you show up matters. And so, Heather, I just love that you invited me in on this topic of really honing in on what gives you life, what makes you feel drained. If we all have better clarity on that, we can push beyond even our current limits, but within the structure of our unique selves. And so I think knowing myself as a leader, knowing myself as an individual, as a friend, as a spouse, as a parent, allows me to do better. And so it gives me a lot of hope for what this year holds. So I would encourage all of your listeners to really spend time digging into what you need in order to make it through not just this situation, not just this season of leadership, but to really expand upon creating that sustainability.
I love that. And I also want to add to that, don't be afraid to invite in people to help you get there.
Yes.
I think that, and you be wisely, choose wisely, be selective.
Yes.
But there's people that can help you step into that space. And I'm talking about informal connections. They don't necessarily be formal ones, but just sitting down with my husband and saying, here's what I'm feeling about anxious about, and I'm not sure how to get there. I'm not sure why. And it was a very brief conversation that gave so much clarity. So I think it's just that reminder. My false belief was I got to figure it out by myself. Well, I could feel the anxiety growing as I was trying to figure it out by myself. Right. So I think honoring that space of what are maybe some of our tension and some of our draining and some of our fatigue is trying to tell us, and be honest with ourselves, stay passionate, stay curious. And if you can't get there on your own, it's okay to bring in a buddy that will help you get there and stay curious with you and stay compassionate with you.
Absolutely.
All right, my friend. Well, listeners, it's been so fun to be here with Tiffany today. And I just want to say we are both cheering you guys on. Did today's episode resonate with you? Rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And don't forget to subscribe to receiving emails at heatherpenny.com so you never miss a moment of growth. Cheering you on.